Hey, what's going on, guys? Indy here with Ultimate 2 Reviews, and today we're taking a look at another e-bike, the Windhorse W3. Now, Windhorse is actually a subsidiary of another brand. I think it's called Sprocom, I think is how you pronounce it. And they were founded back in 2009, with Windhorse now being their subsidiary that focuses mostly on just e-bikes. So the W3 is one of their most popular e-bikes they have out there. And if you've seen my previous videos on the GoTrex Flex, that thing runs about $400, and it does have some downsides. So this thing being about twice the price, there seems to be a lot better feature in this thing, a lot higher range, better speed. So I'm really curious to see what a e-bike that is pretty much double the cost, how really good it can be. So let's get the thing popped open and find out how good it is. But I think one of the key things though for e-bikes is ease of assembly. A lot of people buy these, they live in apartments in the city, you might not have access to a ton of tools. And I think honestly, assembly is one of the big buying factors for e-bikes. If you got one that just comes in the mail and it's like in 45 pieces, you might not want to buy it again. So I'm really curious to see how easy this thing is to assemble. Let's pop this box open and get right to it. First thing I always check in these boxes is the up arrows there. I want to make sure you open this thing the right way. So packaging on this thing is pretty good. It's a double thick cardboard box on here. A lot of the packaging got kind of spewed about in here, but these e-bikes are usually pretty durable. So that's always a good thing about these bikes. This thing seems to be all in, one piece. Oh, I like this handle right here on that battery pack. Actually, this is pretty awesome. So I just have to put the seat on. There's not like a host of parts or anything crazy in here. So that is pretty good news out of right of the box there. Yeah. Nice little kickstand on the back there. Let me grab a little diagonal cutters and get all these zip ties off here. All right, so coming in closer here, this is a pretty standard e-bike feature, is going to be these little offset kind of handlebar things here. My GoTrex Flex has the exact same thing on the handlebars. So it's just a little offset. You can pop this up, fold it down, pop it back in. There you go. Very simple to do for the handlebars, very common as well. And I do like this design, super easy to do, toolless as well. There you go. Okay, I was wondering where the manual would be, so it's actually in the basket. When I opened the whole box, I'm like, I'm missing pedals in the manual, but I think I'll find them here pretty soon. And I did. They are in the basket, which is honestly a great idea, so they're not damaging any part of the e-bike in shipping, and they, of course, will stay put because they're in a basket, so that is nice. Oh, check this out. Whoop. This box was open. Check this out. You get a nice little wrench here. That's a pretty unique looking wrench. Looks like it's probably got all the bolt sizes you're going to need for this e-bike, so you don't need to have any extra tools to get this thing open, other than maybe like a scissors or a knife, and that's about it. But let's get these pedals on, and honestly, this is super easy right here to get on. I mean, I'm pretty much almost already done here, and I've only been doing this for about 2-3 minutes now, so this is great. Of course, we got the seat right here. That is a standard bike seat here, very easy to adjust and get it on. And I'm actually going to use this tool here to just put the final tightening down on these pedals here. So that is actually kind of like this tool. I usually always just kind of toss aside any of the tools that are, in these packs, but this is honestly not terrible. I mean, for a nice little wrench here, works pretty good. There we go. All right, both pedals are snugged on. There's only two things I haven't opened yet. Are of course going to be our manual and our charger. So I would assume this thing is going to need a nice charge before we take this thing out. So let's get this thing plugged in here and we're going to go from there. Pretty standard charger by the looks of it. No, it doesn't have the Windhorse name on here, but it's going to be a 42 volt at a rather slow 1.5 amps here. Windhorse is claiming that this thing charges itself back up within just a couple of hours. So that is always nice to have. As you can probably tell, this is the battery pack in right here, and it's got a pretty standard bike design overall. All right, and our charging port is actually nicely here on the left side. Whereas in a car, the driver's side, which on a bike, there's not really a side there. But nice little cap here on it to keep it clean from the elements there. So we got the thing plugged in. There's actually still one more thing, maybe technically two things to do, and that's up on the handlebars. Let's check that out. Okay, so up here on the handlebars, I need to, of course, cut the zip tie that is holding these keys on. just like that, ever so carefully. And then I always like to keep one key in the ignition and one key somewhere else safe from where I'm at, which most e-bikes do have keys. Of course, you're driving around, you're going to park them somewhere. It's kind of treat it just like any motorcycle or car, where you, of course, want to have that secure. Someone can't just, pop on and drive off. And then secondly, we're going to want to also adjust the handlebars. Now, they're in their transport mode where they are kind of sitting down there. So we're going to pop these back up. You got to put those sort of wherever you like them, really. I like to have my brakes right out in front of me, so if I extend my hands, that's where I want my brakes to be. Now, here's actually one spot where you will need some type of screwdriver here to tighten down the bell here, and also that reflector, of course, for safety. And let's see here. How do I want to get this reflector? I don't even know where this thing should go. Yes, down there for now. I'll have to find maybe a better spot to get that mounted on, but I at least want that thing to be secure so it doesn't go flying around. Okay, so we got that done. Now, while this is charging, let's go inspect this bike and see what is good about this bike. I'm really curious to look it around, check out the motor, check out the brakes, see how well this thing is. Any adjustments out of the box? I'm really curious to find out. So let's dive down to it. All right, I like to see front and rear disc brakes. We have that, which is great. Of course, they are adjustable too, which is definitely a given. We've got front and rear shocks, so that is nice. We also have looks to be somewhat adjustable little mud flap here, which is nice. It's got front and back connections. On my Go Tracks, it's only got a front little clip here, so the back is kind of just hanging off where it wants to go. And I'm not a huge fan of that design, but the Windhorse here, it does have that, so a lot better design there in that front fender or mud flap, whatever you want to call it there. And check out these brakes. That is pretty awesome. No, they're not hydraulic brakes. It's still going to be a cable brake here with your disc brakes. And I'm sure I have to ride this a little bit to make sure it's adjusted properly, but we'll find that out in a little bit here. Okay, so here is our rear. Now, a lot of times on the cheaper e-bikes, like the Go Tracks I've got, your motor and your drum brake is going to be kind of all one assembly in the back here. I like having a rear disc brake. Give me something separate like that, that of course can be nice and serviceable, whereas putting a drum brake and a motor all together, it's not really a serviceable kind of thing there. We're running Black Cat tires on here, and these are going to be 14 by 2, 125 by 75 by 254. Is a lot of numbers on that tire there. But here's our back shock here, and you can see some of our welds in there as well. Looks all pretty good, for about an $800 e-bike, not too bad. Of course, here's going to be your battery here. It's not really removable, but I do like that this one is pretty accessible. On my Go Tracks Flex, I actually had to replace the battery. It was under warranty, and it was kind of a pain in the butt to replace that. If you replace this battery, it'd be a lot easier to do. Okay, let me read you the sticker right here. We are going to be a 36-volt battery, 28 watt hours. We have a 50-watt motor here. That's, of course, 500-watt hub motor here. That's going to be on the back there. We are showing a limited speed of 15.5 miles per hour, max speed of 22 miles per hour, showing a range between 20 and 35 miles. And we also have 14-inch tires on there. Of course, our charger specs are all here as well. Charge time 4 to 5 hours. And surprisingly, max weight is 330 pounds on that. So that is a pretty cool specs on this bike. And let's get this thing charged up and we'll take it for a spin. All right, so after you get the Windhorse W3 unboxed, I took a couple weeks now to actually ride this bike pretty much every single day and kind of see what I liked, what I didn't like, and kind of the overall experience with this bike. To really understand a lot of these e-bikes, you got to ride them for a decent amount of time to really kind of see, do I like that? Was that just kind of a break-in thing? What is going on with this e-bike? Now, I will say one thing about this e-bike is that it does require a little bit of tweaking here and there. Now, I'm not sure if it got some damage in shipping, things got bumped around in shipping or not, but the front disc brakes required a slight adjustment. They were rubbing on the right side of that pad on the caliper there. Super easy to do with a quick, small socket set. You can make those adjustments really nice, which that actually brings me to one good point about this W3 is that pretty much everything on here is somewhat adjustable. And I do like that a lot because if you want to make any adjustments, any minor repairs yourself, swap out brake pads, maybe swap out the brake discs, you definitely can do that relatively easily. Everything can mostly be adjusted. Things like oiling the chain, again, super easy to do, which I do definitely recommend doing that right out of the box. Now, one thing that I thought was definitely really strange, but yet at least really cool to have included, was that you can actually unlock the unlimited speed mode of this thing really easily. So all you got to do is turn the key on, or before you turn the key on, hold down the throttle and brake all the way down, turn the key on, and of course, after about 8 seconds, then you were in unlimited speed mode. And what I don't like about that is there is no verification that you are in the unlimited speed mode. There's no flash or anything. There's no different light, different color, or anything. You just gotta hope you held it down long enough, and you're good to go. So that's kind of the one odd thing about this bike is, it doesn't have any, clarification on a lot of these little features like that. However, though, once you're in unlimited speed mode, it's night and day difference. It's significantly faster. It's like unlocking gears 5 and 6. It is significantly quicker. Even in the lower end, I can definitely feel a bit more power too. Speaking of power, because this thing has a really nice front and rear suspension, which I do wish the suspension was a little bit more adjustable. You can't really make any adjustments to the front or rear shocks. I found the front shocks to be a little stiff and the rear shocks to be a little soft. Not a huge deal, but I will say this thing does absolutely incredible off-road. Now, when I say off-road, I mean going into the grass a little bit here and there, nothing too crazy. When you come to off-road, you're not doing like motocross with this bike, of course. But when you want to go off-road in the grass, the suspension and the tires in this thing are definitely well above anything else I've tried. It's quite a smooth ride, and of course it handles amazingly. Even in kind of light sand or here and there, it does a fantastic job of going off-road no problem. I forgot to mention too, when it comes to the brakes, they do require a little bit of bed-in period here. That's not uncommon for disc brakes, of course. I found about 10 miles in, then the brakes were then fully bedded in. You can do it faster if you want to get to full speed, brake really hard, do it a couple times in a row. You'll bed in those brakes a lot faster. And what I mean by that is the pads are not fully seated onto the rotors, so you might be getting, a little bit of an angle on there here or there. They don't seem like they're stopping super hard. Once you get those brakes bed in, then you are ready to roll there. And then, of course, they are braking at full capacity. So definitely important to be aware of that. Make sure you adjust your brakes and get this thing out of the box. And then, of course, make sure you are bedding them in before coming to any really hard emergency stops. You want to do that before you have to actually use those brakes to full capacity. Well, the overall driving experience of this thing I thought to be absolutely fantastic. I like the actual low center here, so you can easily step over the bike to get on it. Makes it really simple, especially if you are a bit older, maybe have a hard time getting onto a bike. This is one of those that is very easy to do. It's why I like a lot of these new e-bike designs. They're very comfortable to sit on. My wife found this seat to be definitely a lot more comfortable than I did. I like the much larger seats myself, but again, this is just a standard bike, so you can swap this out with anyone you want. If you got a bike you like, you can swap this out. And of course, it's just a simple quick connect here, so this thing comes off in like 1 second. It's no big deal. So again, that's always a positive feature with the removable bike seats on these e-bikes, because it definitely helps these things stay somewhat customizable. When it comes to, of course, charging, I found the charging to be very quick. We charge up in about 4 hours or less for most of the time you need to charge this thing, which is fantastic. I'm not a big fan of the e-bikes that are like, it's a 10-hour charge time. So if you forget to plug it in at night, well, unfortunately, you're not going to have any power till the evening you charge back in the morning. So always a fast charge time. That's always nice to have. Range on this thing, I found it's kind of a weird thing. They claim 0 to 35 miles on this thing. So, I mean, technically, if you went as slow as possible, maybe on a slight decline, yeah, 35 miles would be no problem. I was averaging about 15 to 20 miles, I would say, depending on the terrain. If I was doing more uphills, 15 miles-ish was kind of the lowest I was getting at times. Whereas around 20 miles was definitely more common from what I've seen. For just normal riding, accelerating hard. A little bit of pedaling here and there, but if you don't want to pedal at all, that's no big deal too. This thing definitely has a lot of get up and go power to it. So I would say 15 miles of range, pretty solid, is actually a good, estimate, I would say. If you're looking for an e-bike that needs to do maybe a 6 mile, one-way trip, 6 miles back, this will definitely fit your needs, no problem. One thing I always kind of found that to be a little bit mixed is the front light on here. Now, Some e-bikes have the front light actually on the steering here, so it'll move when you steer. This one just keeps it straight. I'm not too sure what I feel about that exactly. I like that it stays always pointing the direction of the frame, which is cool, so you're not like shaking the light around when you're driving. That keeps it nice and smooth when you're going in a straight line. But if you're trying to steer on a corner, well, that kind of makes it a little more difficult there. So pros and cons to having that on, but it's kind of up to you. If you kind of like the light staying with the frame, not with the steering, it's kind of a little bit of a give and take there. Now, at the end of the day, when I say this is an $800 e-bike, I will say it goes on sale quite often for around 450. And of course, right now at the time of filming, they're having a Black Friday sale that brings it around to $320. Of course, you still have to pay for shipping, but that's kind of variable depending on where you're at. And shipping's never really too much right now anyways. But for $320, this is a crazy value for an e-bike. You're getting full front and rear disc brakes, which if you've ever used any e-bikes with the older style drum brake, this is a night and day difference here. You can actually brake so hard on this bike. I was thinking to myself, man, I wish these things had ABS. That'd be absolutely awesome because this thing can brake just an incredibly hard stopping. And I would say that's honestly a good thing. You can, of course, adjust the disc brakes to brake softer. So I like to have my front brake. I can brake as hard as I want there, but it's not actually going to lock the brakes up. My rear brake, though, I can actually lock that up no problem. That allows me to kind of adjust the speed of me coming to a stop without preventing myself from braking so hard that I fling myself over the handlebars. So, of course, there's a couple things you can do to make some nice adjustments there, kind of make it brake to the way you want it to. It's always a nice pro there. Now, the battery itself, I think, is in a fantastic spot. You've got a nice handle here, too. You've got nice mud flaps front and rear, which actually do stop any like rain getting on you. A lot of e-bikes, they have really thin kind of fender flare and mud flaps there. And you're walking through, a puddle or something, it'll still splash on you a little bit. Whereas these definitely cover the entire wheels, so it's definitely preventing you from getting splashed by water at all, which I found to be an actually fantastic feature there. Everything else in this bike, though, is very well designed. Everything is nicely put together. I think it's overall a great build for a bike. The suspension, I think, is the biggest thing. If it was more adjustable, that would really allow you to dial it in and really make it ride exactly the way you want. That's kind of the only thing I'd say I'd take off a few points for is the suspension. If it was more customizable suspension, this would pretty much give me a 10 out of 10 bike here. So I'm gonna give this thing like a 9 out of 10. Overall, it's very easy to use, very simple. Setup is great on this thing. Price point, I think, is right how it should be when you grab it on sale at around $400. This thing is an absolute steal for what you're getting. It gives you a lot of more expensive features in this thing for not much more money. And compared to a lot of other competitors out there, which there is a lot of e-bike competitors out there, I think the Windhorse W3 is definitely on the right track. Windhorse is doing the right stuff here. They're putting the right quality of parts in this bike. And I think they're still kind of dialing in these bikes for the ride quality. And of course, the handling of these things is really getting to where it should be very quickly here. A little bit of customization on these bikes, making sure that you're aware that you need to tune these things up a little bit here and there, adjusting the brakes, adjust the handlebars. You can set that at unlimited speed mode. A lot of cool features in this thing here that allow you to really make the bike your own and ride exactly the way you want it to. So guys, I'll leave a link in the description. You want to check this thing out on the Black Friday deal right now. It's about $320. They give you a coupon code right now too. But this thing is an absolute steal for what you're getting. Feature-wise, it's pretty much everything you want to see here too. Got plenty of power. If you're wondering, compared to my GoTrax Flex, this thing easily has about 40% more power, definitely more range, and it's honestly a little bit cheaper than the GoTrax Flex too, which I would say buy this over the GoTrax Flex, definitely. But if you want that kind of more scooter style, which I absolutely love that scooter style, it's such a comfortable ride, rides really nice. The GoTrax Flex is, of course, one of the few options that still has a scooter style. So honestly, the W3 from Windhorse, yeah, definitely a 9 out of 10 e-bike. I definitely enjoyed riding it. It's got a lot of great features to it, a lot of great customizability to it as well. And I think I can definitely say, yeah, I recommend this thing at this sale price point. It's a fantastic deal. So guys, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a great day and ride safe out there.